With YouTube attacking alternative media, please consider supporting the channel via Patreon for just $1 per month. Link below. Why is it always a crazy kook of a professor? I'm going to just go on a limb right now. I'm just going to make the claim that this is probably a liberal professor. I'm just gonna say it. I know I'm bad, but I think it's a liberal professor. So, but yoga photos are always good, except for the dude. The guy can go, but the rest can stay. White people who do downward facing dog are contributing to a system of power, privilege, and oppression, according to a Michigan State University professor. So white people who enjoy the act of yoga, right, which apparently I hear is wonderful for your body. I have yet to attempt it. You can pretty much take one guess as to why. It rhymes with my first name. And as a result of that, I have kind of wanted to give it a shot. I'm not a limber person. I want to lose some weight before I jump into yoga myself, but I've never looked at yoga, a trait that's, or what is it, a study, a teaching that's inherently from the East, be looked at as a tool, a symbol of white supremacy. But then again, it's 2018. Anything can happen. Now, Shreena Gandhi, okay. A religious studies professor at Michigan State claims in an article she recently co-authored that Americans who practice yoga are contributing to white supremacy and to promote the yoga industrial complex. Yeah, okay. Now, here's the thing. When you go and, look at yoga as a whole, oftentimes, at least from my experiences with it, it's kind of like yuppie or hipster white people that live in New York or LA or any of the kind of swanky areas, and they do it because it's a trendy thing. Whether they get any enjoyment or any benefit out of it, I got no freaking idea. But that's ultimately why they do it. They do it because it's one of those scenarios that they're able to very much work with, right? Like it's kind of, it's trendy at the moment, but that's about it. Right. I'm surprised. If she wanted to say something along the lines of like white people who engage in yoga as cultural appropriation, I still wouldn't never really fully believe it. I would still point and laugh at it. But at the same time, I think in terms of an argument, that holds more weight than saying that it's a system of power, privilege, and oppression, and that it's white supremacy and it promotes the yoga industrial complex. Those three words in that, I have never heard in that framing before. And I have to say, bravo, Shreena, bravo. You've created the first buzz term of 2018. Outside of, do you know Dewey? I know Dewey. Do you know Dewey? The point is, you've created a good buzz term. It's a good buzz term. This one won't go away, I don't think. Now, it says here, white Americans should learn yoga's history, acknowledge the cultural appropriation they engage in, and possibly reduce the cost of yoga classes for poor people, a group that often includes people of color and recent immigrants, such as Indian women, to whom this practice rightfully belongs. Now, again, see, like I said, if you pull from the cultural appropriation article or angle, then I could see that. But at the same time, I've never heard a Latina sit there and say that white people who engage in Samba classes is also guilty of white supremacy and the Samba industrial complex, right? Exercise is meant to be for everyone. It is. Exercise is meant to be for everyone. If you engage in it in yoga or Samba or cycling, for Christ's sake, which is the whitest of all bicycles exercises, then you could, it's not meant to restrict you. And even, isn't the idea of yoga to like relax and open one's mind? Right? Isn't that the whole idea, to just kind of meditate? And if people are finding benefit and health from it, then what does it matter to you? Ultimately, that's what I find to be hysterical here. Now, she co-authored a piece titled Yoga and the Roots of Cultural Appropriation with Lillie Wolff, a self-described anti-racist white Jewish organizer, facilitator, and healer. Well, oh my God. That's a lot of hyphenates. Who has called for decolonizing yoga. That's great. Oh my God, the buzzwords. They're amazing. The two argued that the explosion of yoga studies, yoga videos, apps, yoga pants, and other yoga swag over the last 2 decades is evidence of the misappropriation of yoga, and that is part of a systemic racism built on the labor of Black people and people of the global South. Okay, listen. Black people? You never really hear that associated with yoga. I mean, if it is, look, I don't know anything about the history of yoga. I mean, perfectly abundantly clear on that one. So if it did originate with black people, that is entirely new to me. Okay, and if which case that's if that's the case, I'm just saying, Shreena Gandhi, she sounds like she's from India or Pakistan or that part of the world, probably India with the last name Gandhi. And if so, she's out there advocating for white supremacy to leave yoga behind and move on to something else. But if yoga was a creation of black people, then isn't she herself guilty of a cultural appropriation? And then she's just trying to Hindu supremacy yoga? I mean, right? Like, if you start following down that particular rabbit hole, it gets a little bit crazy. And it's the global South. What? Is that Africa again? Is that like is that like what they're talking about? The global South? The buzzwords. My God, they're amazing. We would argue one of the goals of white supremacy is to buffer white people from the pain that comes from the process of exchanging cultural grounding for the unearned power and privilege of whiteness. This modern-day trend of cultural appropriation of yoga is a continuation of white supremacy and colonialism, maintaining the pattern of white people consuming the stuff of culture that is convenient and portable, while ignoring the well-being and liberation of the Indian people. Okay, is it Indian people or is it black people? You've got me confused. I am so confused here. All right, and ultimately, who cares, man? Here's the thing. I think what they're really upset at is that there are people out there who have found a way to make money off of yoga who aren't Indian. Gandhi and the Religious Studies Department at MSU did not respond to Fox News' request for comment. Yeah, clearly. Because when their ideas are put up to any kind of scrutiny, they're probably going to fall flat. Now, Gandhi said, few white people make the connection between their attraction to yoga and the cultural loss their ancestors and relatives experienced when they bought into white dominant culture in order to access resources. What? Given a deeper analysis of yoga, I'm sorry, just hold on. Make the connection between their attraction to yoga and the cultural loss their ancestors and relatives experienced when they bought into white dominant culture in order to access resources. I'm just going to summarize that entire sentence in 2 words because this is all it boils down to. White guilt. That is it. What they're saying is there are a few white people who have engaged in yoga that she realizes understand white guilt and therefore have, and I quote here, made the connection between their attraction to yoga and the cultural loss their ancestors and relatives experienced when they bought into white dominant culture in order to access resources. Man, that's funny. Although part of me is confused because I'm wondering if at any point that's referring to the people in India or black people, whoever invented yoga, because this article is confusing, bought into white culture in order to then gain access to the resources to therefore better their life. I don't know. She's kind of not making lots of sense. But white people who twist their bodies in different yoga positions can do something about it, according to Gandhi. Given deeper analysis of yoga, white yoga practitioners and teachers can engage in yoga in a decolonizing way that reduces harm and seeks greater cultural accountability. Okay, again, when you do yoga, the only person who's experiencing any harm is you from trying to twist your body like it's a freaking pretzel. So again, I'm trying to understand how partaking in yoga hurts other people, right? It's not like you're a wacky wailing inflatable tube arm man or something. You know, you're not doing that at all. So what the hell's going on? What does any of this literally have to do with the price of tea in China? Especially during the time when the underbelly of capitalism, white supremacy, cis heteropatriarchy, and xenophobia is being exposed. It is imperative that everyone, especially those who have access to spiritual practices like yoga, ask difficult questions of ourselves and one another. We must ask, in what ways are we complicit in a system that harms people of color, queer, trans people, poor people, people with disabilities, and immigrants? And it all boils down to the downward dog. You've got to look at this as being just something that's utterly ridiculous, right? Utterly stupid and ridiculous. And clearly people believe this. This is why social justice warriors will eventually lose, right? In articles like this one, where again, when everything is white supremacy, everything white people touch is just cultural appropriation of something else, whether it is or isn't, regardless of the argument, I guess, that they're trying to make. But this is why they're going to lose, is because they simply don't understand that you can have a culture that has different elements from other cultures brought into it. That's the reason why America, the United States, its essence is a melting pot. Multiple cultures from around the world come here and bring their wares, and we all pull from each other. And then in some of those respects, pop culture, Americana, goes to other parts of the world. I mean, if Americana makes its way to some Eastern Russian country or Eastern European country, like, you know, where 30 years, like, you're from now, they're finally getting fashion senses we had in the 90s. Could we sit there and argue that they're guilty of cultural appropriation because they don't have their old culture and they're pulling from ours? No, no one cares. But when Americans do it, i.e. especially white Americans do it, it becomes this bigger than life problem that ultimately isn't a problem. And it's just what we have to freaking deal with. But hey, listen, only in America could you come, well, not only in America, but I feel like in this particular case, I'm going to say, I'm going to quote Don King, only in America can you go and put out a paper like this that is so abundantly stupid, completely ludicrous, and also hilariously awesome to learn about, because this is how people actually think, and it's kind of dumb.